Greetings, Earthbound travelers. It's Friday. You know what that means. It's time for Will of the Dice Presents Cast Guidance. I'm Tier the DM, the world's okayest DM. And with me, as always, is Raph the Mad. Hey, Raph.
Greetings, greetings, greetings.
And the unruly one, Locke Clark.
Hi, gamers.
Before we get started, we do have a couple of quick announcements. First and foremost, we are for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. And we do not encourage the use of nicotine products such as cigarettes or vaping. We want you to be happy and healthy. And just because we do it doesn't mean we think you should. And finally, we are in no way, shape, form associated with any TTRPG creators, publishers, or manufacturers. We're just questionable individuals coming together to discuss topics and give our questionable opinion.
Very questionable.
Yeah, about that.
Give the shout out, Locke.
We would like to thank the musician who made our theme song, which makes the show that much cooler. And that is our very own Patrick Taylor. Thanks, Peculiar Patrick.
Thanks, Pants.
All right, gamers, you know what time it is. You know what you need to do. You need to go over to Patreon. You need to go look up Will of the Dice. You need to go click subscribe. Help support us. Help support this channel. Get access to cool things like After the Rolls. Find out why we're so paranoid about where the next Power Word kill is coming from. Find out why we're worried about what Tier's up to. So yes, come subscribe, help support us, help support this channel. It really helps keep us going, and we really appreciate it. Thanks.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of different shit. We put weapon tags as the main premise, and so words. So we will be discussing weapons tags. But no, we're gonna start with other things. Raph, you have something? We're going to start with Raph today. Raph's going to be our kickoff.
Yeah, no. We need an appetizer before we get to the meat that me and Tier are going to chew on for the next half hour.
Oh, boy. All right. So this requires a little bit of story. So picture this. It was Italy, 1916. I mean...
Okay, Sophia.
Right. Players are attacking a tavern. Players don't want said people inside tavern to escape. Players, we found this out later. It is a minute to cast this spell, but players cast Leomund's tiny hut in the doorway.
Yeah, that checks out.
Uh-huh. Like,
that checks out.
Well, crap.
Hold on. I don't think it does, because I think you have to have enough open space.
It was
the dome.
It was open enough width-wise for the dome, because the dome's only 10 foot in diameter.
That was a big damn doorway then.
Yeah, it was 10-foot door, double door.
Well, they're not getting out.
No.
And then they burned the tavern down around them.
Unless they go out the back way or out a window or something, they're not getting out the door.
Yeah, we had a bunch of evil clerics leaping out second story windows to escape. It was I'm like, so yes, for you players out there.
I mean, we're gonna blame the DM for this, because that building was not up to fire code, because there was only one exit on the main floor. And therefore,
there was an exit out the back.
OSHA was not consulted in the building of this structure. It was unsafe to begin with, and the players just capitalized on that lack of building codes.
Yeah, pretty much. No, there was an exit out the back, and as we call it, there was a kill pocket on the backside waiting for them.
Oh yeah, form a kill cup. Let's do this.
It was like, oh, damn, players are thinking, I don't like this. Then we had another instance of the house was attacking. And this is where I had an issue with the environmental rules. And we had to just figure this out, because we had falling beams from the house burning down around them, and we had our one of our artificers standing outside, and he had I want to say dodge, but that wasn't. He had a different defense where he had to see the attack coming, and then he got a bonus to his AC, I think. And he tried to cast it, but you don't see the attack coming. He's like, because things were falling down from his head.
And this is why it will be important in 1D&D when they change everything that reads "you see it" to "you see or hear it." Because I think if you hear the attack coming, you should be able to react to it if you have a power that lets you react.
My argument was
being falling on top of you. You're gonna hear that shit. Like you have a second to react. That's a reaction. I get. Maybe I'm a lenient DM in that. I would be like, no, you heard that. You didn't have to see it. You heard it. That's just me,
they cast Lehman's tiny hut and screwed up my plan. But
so you're being vindictive as a DM. I respect that.
Occasionally, but my actual thought was, well, with all the other crackling and burning of a fire and things falling down, he wasn't going to see or sense that coming.
So this would have been my argument to you, Raph. If I know shit's falling down, my ass is watching above me as I try to get through here because shit's falling down.
He also had a level 3 fighter in front of him trying to stab him. So it wasn't just, the environment. It was.
We'll see. Yeah, these important facts that you have to include, Raph.
Yeah, that's context that's necessary. No, I think as a DM in that situation personally, I would have given him a high DC perception check to be aware and get to use his reaction.
Yep.
That's what I would have done.
That or roll against their passive perception.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that was happening, but it was interesting. But yeah, because he kept ducking in and out of Lehman's tiny hut to stab people because he's allowed to go in and they weren't.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, you can pull off cool fuckery like that with what is it? The magical mansion spell too.
Oh yeah.
Because that door is only visible to people you have invited. So like you could just set the door and run through it, and then like and if you close the door, they can't enter. I don't know. I'd have to go back and reread that spell to see the things. But I think there might be a way that you could put that doorway in a doorway.
Ooh.
So you have enlightened me to something, Raph.
Uh-oh.
I never thought about my doorway sizes, considering you have things like Loxodon and Minotaur.
Mm-hmm. And a 6'9" Dragonborn.
So I've got to reconfigure how I look at buildings and openings and stuff.
But unless they count as a large size creature, then they still only take up a 5 foot by 5 foot cube.
That is true. I don't remember if Loxodons qualify as medium or large.
Ooh. Still, flavor text wise, they're ducking coming in that door, and they fill that door if it's a 5 foot door.
Yeah, but with a 5 foot door, you can't cast Lehman's tiny hut in the doorway.
Nope, this was a double door, a double swinging door, in the front door to the tavern.
We have a question while we're looking that up. There's a question in chat from the Welsh Turk. Says that Charlie had a question, and it is, if you just pour liquid into a bag of holding, how do you summon it?
A handful at a time.
I think all right, so things only fall out of a bag of holding if you turn the bag of holding inside out. So, in theory, you could open the flap on the bag of holding and hold it over a vessel and just think about the liquid in it, and it would pour the liquid into a vessel of your choosing.
it depends if they've changed the wording or not, because used to you had to think about what you was reaching in to get. You had to actually reach into the pocket dimension to get it.
Okay, so I open the flap, I hold it over the bucket, I stick my hand in, and I think water, and the water should just free flow out of it into the bucket.
Well, that was my
Yeah.
first question: is you got something to catch the liquid on when it comes out?
Otherwise, if the bag is in the upright position and you stick your hand in and you think water, you're getting a handful of water.
But the
But
rest
if
of your
you,
shit's going to be wet.
I
'Cause
think the water is just one giant like droplet that's just floating in the ether space that is the pocket dimension of the bag of holding. Because if I think about it, I'm going to get all of that water back by thinking water and sticking my hand in the thing. So anything that got
Sure.
wet, all that moisture is getting sucked back out because I summoned the water.
It doesn't say in fifth ed how the bag of holding works. It's specifically all it says is retrieving an item from the bag requires an action.
Oh, there you go. You could do it that way. Could you hold the cup into the bag and summon it that way? I'd allow it.
Yeah, you just pull up a cup of that liquid.
Like rule of cool, yeah, sure.
See, back in the day, the bag of holding specifically said you had to reach in and grab it.
Because they remember chicanery that has happened.
All right, Locke, shall we get to it, sir?
Sure.
Oh.
Y'all ready for this? This is not the title of the episode. This is a tangent. I cast tangent, and that question is: we just saw Shariz get hit with a power word kill. Power word kill kills any creature with less than 100 hit points. No death saves, no nothing, you are dead. How does that work with wild shape and polymorph?
Ooh.
It's a big, hairy question. But I'm bummed.
So I will let you start out, Locke.
Oh, okay. So,
Otherwise, it has no effect.
Jeremy Crawford somewhat answered this question. I don't think he fully answered the question, but this was asked in Sage Advice. If your Druid shapes into a wolf and is targeted with power word kill, does the Druid revert dead or alive? Jeremy Crawford's answer was, if you have 100 hit points or fewer, power word kill causes you to die. Notice that it doesn't say drop to 0 hit points. That was his answer. But the problem with his answer is that if you read the rules for polymorph or wild shape, it specifically says that the spell lasts for the duration or until the target drops to 0 hit points or dies. And when it does one of those two things, it reverts to its normal form. The creature returns to its normal number of hit points it had before being transformed.
Is that wild shape or polymorph?
Both of them read the same way. Both polymorph and wild shape include the clause that you revert to your normal form when you hit 0 hit points or die. They both have the word die in the spell or ability. So Jeremy Crawford's answer seems to indicate that because you had less than 100 hit points in the form you were in, you die. But the spell specifically says, the spell and the ability, if you die, you revert and get your hit points back.
And it's because that is the crux of it. if the wording of polymorph or wild shape said that you go unconscious, hit 0 hit points, you revert back, then I would argue that it just kills the caster flat out because there's no hit point to it. It's just dead. But because they do include the word die.
Well, and here I'm gonna smack my own argument in the face here by arguing the devil's advocate side of this. If I get poisoned while I'm wild shaped, poison the condition. That condition carries over when I revert back. So that begs the question, is death a condition? And if death is a condition, would it then carry over? That's what Jeremy Crawford didn't answer. Is, are you then affected by death the condition? Because death the condition basically says, while you are dead, you cannot regain hit points. So if the condition death carries over from one form to the other, then the hit points you should get back by reverting forms get blocked because the death condition stops them. And then you need a revivify spell or something like it that specifically says restores to life in order to gain hit points back. So, but because the ability specifically says if you die, you revert back and get your hit points back, I don't think that means you suffer the death condition, or that condition carries over from one form to another. But it's a very murky area. Raph, you got an opinion?
I have an opinion. They need to rewrite that spell, but I disagree with the thought behind that. I agree with the rules. The rules as written. He casts Power Word Kill on a shape change creature that's polymorph or wild shape. They revert back to normal because it says dies at the end of in their polymorph and wild shape. Now the spirit of the rule says I want to argue otherwise because come on now. Then again, I never really liked that portion of the ruling on polymorph or wild shape. That I just revert back to my normal hit points after I get the snot kicked out of me in beast form. That to me leads to a bit of abuse on the end of I'm just going to wild shape and suddenly I've got twice as many hit points roughly generally or polymorph.
I mean, isn't that kind of the point of those spells?
Sometimes
I think that ruling is to prevent you from taking out every big bad you encounter with polymorph, right? Like the fact that I can't polymorph it into a shape, kill it, and just have it stay dead. When it dies, it reverts back to what it was before, and now I have to deal with that thing again.
Yeah, and I see that.
It's kind of the same thing with management.
Yeah, when the players abuse it, you're like,
See, but here's the thing: a lot of people fail to realize with polymorph, you take on the intellect and everything of what you've been polymorphed into. Yes. So you have to act on the animal instincts, basically.
But yeah, rules as written, ruling is sorry, Power Word Kill would just knock you out of your form. Which I'm not sure I want to encourage DMs to hurl Power Word Kill a lot more often.
It's an interesting conundrum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. So, do you want my solution, or how I view it?
I want to see how, because I came up with a way that I think would be fair, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Well, my argument for Power Word Kill not killing the druid's main form or the caster of polymorph's main form is that if you say that the player as a druid wild shaping getting hit with a Power Word Kill while in wild shape kills the character, that means it works the other way. which means to defeat literally anything in the game, you only need 2 spells. Polymorph and Power Word Kill. There's a Tarrasque. I polymorph it into a weasel and I hit it with Power Word Kill. Now the Tarrasque is dead. And so the question becomes, in my mind, do you want to allow your players to be able to kill a Tarrasque with 2 spells? Granted, one of them is a 9th level spell, but still 2 spells. That defeats everything. Because that's where the logical conclusion of that ruling would go in my brain. Is if you say Power Word Kill kills the Druid, you're saying I can bring in a character that has Polymorph and Power Word Kill, and I can take out anything on the board in 2 turns. 1 turn if I'm a fucking sorcerer and I got meta magic. As my action, I polymorph you. I spend meta magic for Quicken Spell, and I Quicken Spell Power Word Kill as a bonus action. That's...
No, it is. So here's the conclusion I came to. And it is just solidified by the full wording of the spell. If you cast Power Word Kill on someone that is polymorphed or wild shaped, if that shape has less than 100 hit points, it dies. Caster reverts back to normal. They're not dead. Because if I reduce a wild shaped form, this is where my logic came from.
Mm-hmm.
If I reduce a wild shaped form or a polymorph form to 0 hit points, they're not making death saves. It's dead, quote unquote, and you revert back. So it'd be the same for Power Word Kill. I'm just bypassing, having to drop you to 0 hit points. I'm just killing the form that you have currently.
Right.
And now you're back to your caster self. That's my opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the spell and the ability specifically stating you revert back to normal if the form goes unconscious, hits 0 hit points, or dies. It says if it dies. So, right. Yeah.
David pretty much has kind of the crux of the problem. Basically, Wild Shape and Polymorph are essentially a blade of armor at this point against a 9th level spell effect.
And I understand where you're coming from, David. I'm making we're questionable individuals giving questionable opinions. I'm just giving based on that the actual ability and actual spell say that it ends and you revert back to normal if it dies. So Power Word Kill is killing it. And it's included in the wording of the spell. So then the caster would just revert back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because all right. So, Davey, in your argument, one, fucking Polymorph and Wild Shape are both a blade of armor. They always have been, and they always will be. Okay, not always, because Polymorph used to be very different. Because you could actually use it to kill big bads. You could turn them into something else and then kill it, and they stayed dead for a minute there. We fixed those rules several editions ago. So they are always a blade of armor, and I get 2 Wild Shapes per day. What's the most someone can cast Polymorph in a day? And then you get So you're trading a spell slot for a spell slot. Now you're trading up for there, but I can counter spell a 9th level spell and make it, and make the roll, and get rid of a 9th level spell. So I don't think that the equivalency argument really works there. I think that, and I don't think that the target still having less than 100 hit points when they revert form is a factor, because the power word killed. It killed the creature. The creature died. And then that triggers the reverting form. The spell was effective. It killed the bear. The bear is dead. The bear then reverts to Atreus with his whatever number of hit points he had when he transformed. But the spell effect has ended because it did its job and it killed. I don't think it can, because damage carries over, but this is not a damage spell.
And that's
Power Kill does 0 damage. No damage at all. You just die.
I was kind of digging through my memory and just random spells, but the fix is Power Word Kill does 100 damage. That's it. Straight up. Boom. There you go. 100 damage. You take it. No saves, no nothing. That would be a good way to fix it. And then, yeah, you could counter spell it or you could soak it. That's still a heavy hit.
The problem with that, Raph, is that it takes away one of the key factors of Power Word Kill, unless you caveat that with it does 100 points of damage
unresisted
and 3 crits.
Ooh, because it automatically takes away your death saves. You don't get death saves with Power Word Kill. You are dead. So if you make it straight damage, you're taking away the spell effect. Spell just kills you. It drops you to 0, and you fail all death saves immediately. Instant death. So the death saves, making it damage, means it falls under the rules with they now get death saves, which they shouldn't with Power Word Kill, by the way the spell is written. I think this boils down to a case of, in D&D, there is an understanding that there are general rules and there are specific rules. And specific rules trump general rules. And the specific rule of Power Word Kill is it kills you, no death saves, if you have less than 100 hit points. The specific rule of both Polymorph and Wild Shape are if you die, you revert back and you get your hit points. So those two things are not mutually exclusive in this case. You died, and then you got your hit points back. The spell was effective. It took away a Wild Shape for the day. I just had a thought and was looking up Disintegrate. I'm like, How does that work with Disintegrate? But Disintegrate is actually a damage spell. Right. It does 10d6 plus 40 force damage. And only if you reduce the target to 0 hit points is the body disintegrated. But because it's damage, and the way damage works with Wild Shape, that anything over the hit points of the animal carries over to the individual, you would then have to get through the animal's hit points and the individual's hit points before the disintegration effect would take effect. So you can't disintegrate the animal body and thereby kill the druid. Mm-hmm. Let's see, David. He's just borrowing for the, I guess, for Polymorph and Wild Shape from the Death Ward effect. If the spell is still effective, the target is subject to an effect that would kill it instantaneously without dealing damage. That effect is instead negated against the target, and the spell ends.
Right. So yeah, it works as a Death Ward.
Yeah. It should have. And I'm hoping in 1D&D that we start seeing a lot better clarification on spells and different subject matters. We've brought up time and time again on here, David, that different spells, the way they're worded, different abilities, the way they're worded, and how it's just basically confusing at times.
And to defend Wizards of the Coast, as much as we love to, players are devious bastards and rules lawyers, and it's hard to think of every contingency that they come up with. Liam's Tiny Hut.
Well, yeah, and over the course of multiple books, it's easy to write wording that's a little bit unclear when you pair it with the other thing over there. So like, yeah, I think, and that's, you know, one of the things that I think they're trying to address with 1D&D being the sort of 5.5 edition, where they are now aware of all of these little word things. We saw them in the most recent Unearthed Arcana. They fixed one of the ones that we had complained about, wherein the wording, it was the healer feat.
Oh,
where
yeah.
they had written it as a paragraph, but there were multiple effects in the paragraph. And in the new version, they split them into separate, distinct effects. So there's no curiosity or misinterpretation of, well, how does this effect and this effect work together? They are separate effects and they work separately. And so I think that they are very aware of, because they've been answering on Sage advice and things like that, where these little tweaks that they should have made to the verbiage are, and they're working to fix those. I have faith in that. And David, I keep wanting to read David's name with a Welsh accent because of the space in it as David, but this is why we have this program, so we can talk about this rules minutia bullshit, because we all love it. Because figuring out how these things work together is the fun part of D&D, right? Well, you know, it's better than comic book arguments about who would win in a fight. It's, well, how does that work with this? So I'm just going to throw another monkey in the wrench here.
Oh no!
With all of this that we've discussed now, there's one other effect that I can think of in the game that works in sort of the same way as Power Word Kill, and that's suffocation. Suffocation doesn't deal damage. It just kills you. You don't take damage from suffocating. When you run out of air, you start making death saves, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, well, you make a death save.
Right. So the question then becomes, like, when I run out of air and I die, I then revert back to my normal form. Do I immediately go into death saves? Or does my normal form have the oxygen it had in it when I started? It's a weird idea, but like, I revert back to my form as it was when, does that, I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how, you know, suffocation while in polymorph or wild shape works, because that's a weird thing how often do you have to deal with that? I polymorphed into a mouse and someone stuck me in a bag of holding, and it's been more than 10 minutes and now I'm out of air. And so now it's my constitution score, and mice have a shitty constitution score. But when I revert back, I should be able to hold my breath for the length of my constitution score. But did I magically get air back in my lungs? How? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Interesting enough. I read the suffocating section. Creature holds blah blah blah. When it runs out of breath or is choking, it can survive a number of rounds equals Constitution modifier. Start of its next turn, it drops to 0 hit points and is dying, and can't regain hit points or stabilize until it can breathe again. So the dying, it starts making death saves when it's dying, correct?
Yes.
When it says it dropped to 0 points, dying. Yeah, I'm trying to find the dying portion, and
so it would make its death saves. It would, if it fails its death saves, it dies. Now that it's dead, it reverts back to its normal form, alive, with all of its hit points and its constitution.
Yeah, but you're still trapped in whatever's suffocating you. So
yes, but
it
by
buys you a few
suffocation
more rounds.
rules, you can hold your breath for a number of minutes equal to your con score, or equal to your con modifier.
Yes,
is what I meant to say. So does reverting form buy me an extra 5 minutes?
it might.
It might.
Ooh.
Siri Cat has
It
a question
depends.
for you. Well,
Oh,
Um,
yes, you can.
I have an answer for Tyr and Siri. It's right here. Finger again. You know,
Yes, because
you don't know if I'm
can-
kidding or not. Haha. Okay.
you
Anyway,
can counterspell healing. Absolutely.
yes, you can counterspell healing. It's the biggest dick move you can do.
No,
Every
it's not.
DM should do it at least once.
No, it's when you counterspell revivify. That's when you're being a dick.
You should do that at least once too.
I saw David mentioned exhaustion.
Yeah.
I can answer that one because exhaustion is a condition, and conditions carry over. So any exhaustion you took as the creature, you would now have as the character because it's a condition, and conditions like poisoned, as we discussed earlier, carry over. Death is different. Death is a specific condition that is negated by the wording of the ability or the spell.
So,
So-
allow me to get out my soapbox for a minute.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
They have in the new 1D&D playtest, the expert classes, they have redone exhaustion. It is, you can get up to 10 exhaustion points before you die, and you simply deduct the number of exhaustion points you have from any D20 checks, attack rolls, saving throws, modifiers.
I don't know. I like that as well.
Exhaustion is supposed to be something that causes increased difficulty and potentially lethal in a quick amount of time. So old exhaustion rules, the current adhere to exhaustion rules, one level of exhaustion, you have disadvantage on ability checks. 2 levels of exhaustion, your speed is halved. 3, you have disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. 4, hit point maximum is halved. 5, speed reduced to 0. 6, you're dead. So, is the new rules too lenient for exhaustion? Or do you think the old rules were too broken?
It will depend on how you, in the new rule set, how you get exhausted.
I'm going to say yes and no. I want to split the middle. Is what I want to see. What are there? You get 6 levels of exhaustion right now.
Yes.
Yeah, take it up to 10. You know, and you can make the first couple of levels a little, you know, a little less hard hitting, and then start the more sinister effects, or add some lesser effects in the middle. Whatever, I don't care how you do it. I think 10 is a better number than 6, but I think that the way the old rules work better. Now, we should point out that this is in the rules glossary section of the expert classes UA. Which means that this is the one that will be play tested for the duration of this UA and then replaced with a different rules glossary that will supersede it as part of the play test. This is part of the rules that are not as set as the classes and races and stuff. So much like the crit rules where they're playing with things to see how they work and what the feedback is on them, this is a suggested rule that they're trying out. It's not how it's going to be necessarily. But yeah, I like more levels of exhaustion, but I don't think they hit as hard as they should.
Yeah,
Higher levels of exhaustion should be bad.
Yeah, that's my thing, is they're not hitting hard. You know, the only thing is that okay, you have 8 levels of exhaustion. You're subtracting 8 from any D20 roll you make, but it's not having any other effect on you. It hasn't impacted your health in any way, shape, or form. So that I would rather see it have harsher consequences for reaching those levels of exhaustions. But as someone that homebrewed a monster that does 1d4 levels of exhaustion when it uses its special attack, I like having the more levels because that means I get to use the special attack more and don't feel like a dick.
Yeah, because in case anyone doesn't know, when you hit 6 levels of exhaustion, you die. Like
Mhm.
that is death. You are so tired, you die. Your body gives out. So yeah, that's no. I think more levels is better, but I think they need to hit harder than -8 to a roll. Like I think the upper levels of I think you could do the minuses at the first few levels,
Right.
and then you go to disadvantage, and then you go to, and you know they should stack. Movement speed should get dropped because you're going to get slower as you get more tired. Like I felt the old exhaustion rule, the current exhaustion rule, I should say, feels right. There's a lot about it that feels right. Like because if you've ever been that tired, you understand that you're at disadvantage on everything. That you are slow moving. You know, one of the extra levels that we're talking about, you could use, what is it? Mind Sliver? No.
Ooh, no.
One of the Synaptic Static, I don't know, one of the mind spells, the attack spells, makes you choose between an action, a bonus action, or movement. You don't get all of them anymore because your brain is malfunctioning because of the spell. So I think that you could add that in as a level of exhaustion. You get to do one thing on your turn. You can you can take an action, you can take a bonus action, or you can take movement. You can't do all of them. So that I think that should be in the levels of exhaustion. I think there's ways to pad out the levels to get them to 10 without taking the meat out of exhaustion.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like you could have the first 5 levels you just subtract from your rolls.
-2 per level of exhaustion up to 5. That gets you to a -10 modifier. And then
right.
Yeah.
And then, you know, your disadvantages, your speed cuts, your HP cuts, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I like that better. And you know, if they were to take this exhaustion set and use it, I would overrule it at my table. I'd make my own exhaustion system similar to what we just talked about. And I'd do 10 levels, but I would make the last 5 levels hit hard. Don't get there. Don't let yourself get that exhausted.
Yeah. No, I was researching how you get the exhausted condition, you know, the various ways you get it and how that applies. Because I could see an easier exhaustion list where you just take the negatives to your skill and ability checks and your attack rolls if you got exhausted easier.
Yes.
But it doesn't see anything in the rule set that says that they're changing how you get exhausted easier. So kind of like the old way. You push yourself that long, that far, there are some dire effects after a while.
Yeah, you're not taking the long rest, or you know, something else that causes the condition, a spell or something of that nature. It's hard to get exhaustion in 5e.
It is, and that's what I was looking into. You know, how hard is it to actually get exhausted?
Like it's not something that just randomly happens. Like,
well,
as a DM, you're basically planning for your players to get exhausted because you're finding a way to stop them from taking a long break.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, it's not something that happens easily unless you're a DM who has decided that is what is going to happen to your players, because you're going to push them by interrupting their long rest at every stage, which is fine if that's the story you're trying to tell, right? Like if you want to push them to the edge, if that you know, if that's what everyone signed on for, and you're like, you're in this deep dungeon crawl and there is nowhere to rest. Like, you know,
Yeah. Or you could, if the looking for Merry and Pippin scenario from the Lord of the Rings, where you're trying to get somewhere or get to something and you have a limited amount of time, then you may have to push yourself to gain a level or two of exhaustion because you have a limited amount of time to get from point A to point B. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of ways as a DM you can push your players into taking levels of exhaustion without having to homebrew a monster that does exhaustion damage.
No, that was just a fun thing.
No, I know why that monster exists. I'm not ignorant. You wanted to make a level drain monster, and that attack does no longer exist in 5e, and so you had to find something else to do, and you did exhaustion, which is the nearest equivalent to a level drain. Also, I want to say level drains fucking suck, and they were one of the worst things in D&D, and I hated them, and they make everything more complicated. So like, stat drains are the next worst thing.
Aaron, if you let listening DM, stop it. Yeah, our Pathfinder candidate does that a lot right now. We're to the point where he's hitting us with a lot of ability drain and stat drain. I'm like, oh, that's such a pain in the ass because you got to recalculate everything.
Yes, but and Pathfinder doesn't have a D&D Beyond, but D&D Beyond, I will say, does that wonderfully because I can click on any of my stats and enter a temporary number, and it does all the math for me, which is lovely.
Yes.
And then when you get a restoration spell, you can fix that.
But so, I understand why they're doing it in some ways, because as you start to get a straight hit point fight gets, I don't want to say boring, but it doesn't, as you get up in levels, it doesn't inspire the same amount of terror as, oh, you just took a stat drain. Oh crap. That adds a little bit of a pucker factor to your fight when you're dealing with such creatures that cause that, versus as you get higher, just a straight, oh, we're just gonna, tank and spank this poor creature.
So here's like my thought on it is that there are certain monsters that should get stat drains. Anything connected with the Illithid, any Mind Flare or Mind Flare like creature, they've got little brain dog things or whatever the fuck they are.
Intellect Devourers,
yeah, like that. Intellect Devourers, that's it's in the fucking name. If you take the ability to drain stats away from an Intellect Devourer, what the fuck is it? Like those are scary for a reason, and to remain scary, you have to leave that in the game. But it's not as hard to get rid of as it used to be. Second edition, if you got a stat drain or a level drain, that sucked so bad because there was almost nothing you could do. Restorations weren't there for that. That was, so it sucked. And getting levels in second ed was so hard because only the person who killed the monster got the XP.
Yeah.
And only certain classes had ways to get XP that wasn't killing the monster. The Rogue, for example. Rogue got 1 XP for every gold they stole.
I remember that. That was... Yeah, that encouraged party theft, too.
Yeah, and... we had a rogue in the party that would just give themselves XP by robbing the party and then handing it back to you.
Oh, here, you dropped this.
Make his rolls and be like, I stole all their gold. How much did you have in your pouch? Oh, hey, you dropped this.
Yep.
Although we did have a rogue once that, the most baller move I've ever seen in a D&D game. I swear. We fought our way onto a ship that was in port. We killed everyone on the ship and destroyed the thing that was in the hold that was there that it was going to be bad. I don't remember the details. And we all were like, cool, we finished. Let's go to the tavern and drink. And we walked off the ship, and the rogue lingered behind and looked at the DM and went, so this is my ship. How much is a galleon worth? Because I just stole a galleon.
Uh-huh.
And the DM was like, okay, so there's a new home rule at the table that you can't go up more than one level per session because that would have gotten you 5. Like, you know. So, yeah, no, like, we did all the work, and then the thief was like, I'm just going to take the ship because it's mine now, and I'm going to sell it to somebody.
Yeah, ability drain, greater restoration in 5th ed was the
Yeah.
best way only way to really pull that.
Right, and greater
Yeah.
restoration is
It's
a
5th level spell.
5th level spell, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, you got to be.
I'll tell you a spell that I recently come across that I wasn't aware of that looks nice. It's a 6th level spell called Circle of Death.
The title says it all.
Now, why would you like that tier?
Well, allow me to read it to you.
By all means, I'm gonna pull it up as well.
A sphere of negative energy ripples out in a 60-foot radius sphere from a point within range. Each creature in that area must make a Constitution saving throw. A target takes 8d6 necrotic damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful one. When you cast this spell using 7th level or higher, the damage increases by 2d6 slots for each slot above 6th.
8,
So 7, 8, 9.
6,
That's an extra
14d6
6,
necrotic
6,
damage in a circle.
Yeah.
Ooh.
At its max.
A
60-foot
60-foot radius.
radius. That's huge.
Yeah, that's 120-foot.
That's a
Diameter.
That's a that does not feel like a 6th level spell. That's a massive AOE.
Yeah.
That
Ooh.
makes me happy. That spell makes me so happy.
I
Ow.
discovered a new spell this week that I am very keen to try out. Yeah, Sickening Radiance. You guys
Yes.
know this one?
Uh-oh.
A dim greenish light spreads within a 30-foot radius of sphere centered on a point you choose within range. The light spreads around corners and lasts until the spell ends. When a creature moves into the spell's area for the first time or starts their turn there, that creature must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or take 4d10 radiant damage and suffer 1 level of exhaustion. And they then emit a dim greenish light in a 5-foot radius. This
Ooh.
makes it impossible for the creature to benefit from being invisible. The light and any levels of exhaustion caused by the spell go away when the spell ends. The spell's duration is concentration up to 10 minutes. So in theory,
that exhaustion.
all right. So no, wait. Now I want to point this out to you. All right. So that is a 30-foot sphere, right? And if they start their turn in it, right? So every time on their turn when they try to leave the sphere, the warlock or the fighter or someone hits them with a shove or a repelling eldritch blast and knocks them 10 feet back into the sphere. And they just keep racking up levels of exhaustion the whole time.
Yeah, because it says
6 levels, they die, and then when the spell ends, they come back to life. That's a joke because of the way the spell's worded.
Yes.
that all exhaustion and stuff are
Exhaustion
removed.
goes away. But they retain the death condition.
Yes, they retain death.
That's right. Still, that's a 4th level spell too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a mean 4th level spell.
Caveat: it doesn't care who the target is.
That's true. I mean, neither does Tyr's Circle of Death.
Yeah.
Circle of Death doesn't. They're AOE. They don't care.
So yeah, you better hope your party members aren't with you when you cast that.
What's the Isn't there a feat that lets you shape spells?
Meta magic. There's a meta magic for sorcerers.
They're meta
that
magic.
shape spells.
Yeah, so that you can just say, no, you're excluded and you're excluded.
Well, all you do is give advantage on saving throws.
Okay. So, yeah.
So you're still taking damage from that. So, oof.
Yeah.
Some of those spells make you really unpopular with your party members.
Yeah.
Some of those spells make you really unpopular as a DM as well.
Fair cop.
Yeah, but so is counterspell heal.
Like I said, every DM should do it at least once.
It's fun. How to lock down casters? Here at counterspell. They quit casting and pick up their crossbows. My party did that the first time they came across a counterspell. What? You could do that? Yeah, he cast counterspell. Oh crap! He's gonna counterspell everything we do. Sure. We can do it once. So
That just means you got to cast higher level spells and make him roll for that bullshit.
Yep, a whole lot of nope going on. So,
oh, David, that's just mean.
Dude, that's horrible.
He says the spell is fantastic, especially when the targets are trapped under a domed wall of force. Domed wall of force
awesome.
followed by Circle of Death. Yeah, that is wrong and mean.
Or just circle
the one that the sickening radiance.
Yeah, that too. Either one of those is mean if you trap them.
We call it the
microwave.
Call it the microwave. Goddamn.
Someone's thought about this. That's the problem that worries me. What's it say about our psyches? Dude. Ways to piss off your players. Oh. All right, David. I have an idea now to torture my players. Thanks for that. I will blame you when they come after me with the pitchforks and torches. Everyone's beloved favorite NPC. The big bag pits him up, sticks him inside the wall of force, and just casts that sickening radiant.
And you just watch them get tireder and tireder.
And then die.
It takes what,
6 rounds.
6 is 36 seconds. Kill them.
So the interesting thing is that wall of force is concentration. So you have a chance. So you have a chance of. So you can't cast both if sickening radiance is also concentration. But if you got 2 different casters casting, but the nice thing is that your players do have a chance to break the concentration.
Yes.
Yep.
If they understand what's going on.
Yes.
Now that's an interesting question.
Huh?
And this is what I don't think there's an answer for this in the book, so it's one that we as DMs have to figure out the answer to. What does concentration look like? Is it visible? Can you see when a mage is concentrating on a spell?
Ooh.
I would say yes. They would have to be doing something like from the movies, the whole temple, holding the temple, hand outstretched, or they would have to be some telltale. They're not moving, they're not blinking, or their eyes are closed,
But haste is a concentration spell.
Yeah.
What, Ref?
Haste is a concentration spell because I used it for Kieran, and then he went and got into fights while he was concentrating on haste because it's a concentration spell. Had to stay up.
I think
Siri-
for me at my table, the answer for this would be, if you're trained in Arcana, you can tell when someone's concentrating on a spell. If you're not trained in Arcana, it's not as noticeable to you.
Fair point. Siri Cat, of course, has the subtle spell to dodge that discernment.
I don't know. See, I don't know. I might disagree with Siri there.
I disagree because subtle spell would conceal the casting of the spell, but you still have to concentrate on the spell.
Yeah, if it's a concentration spell, even though you cast it and no one notices you cast it, I think if they're trained in Arcane, they could still spot that you're maintaining concentration. Well, like if you're in a crowded room, like, all right, so we're talking about two different things here. Like if you're in combat and a spell effect hits the board, even if you didn't see who cast it, you know who's on your team. You know who those guys over there are all bad guys. One of them is concentrating. I'm looking for the concentrating guy. If you're in a busy tavern and someone casts something with subtle spell, the odds of you being able to, you're gonna have to make. I would make them make a high DC perception and have the Arcana skill proficiency in order to spot who it is in the crowded room that's concentrating on the spell effect that's going on in the room. I think it'd be much harder where it could be anybody versus when there's a group of enemies in front of you, one of them is the caster. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's the difference. In combat, I think if you have Arcana, you can just be like, that guy's concentrating. Now, he might be concentrating on haste for his buddy while the other guy is concentrating on the big AoE spell that you're really worried about. Like...
Yeah, you don't necessarily know which one it is, depending on what's going on.
They might think you're concentrating. Yeah.
David says they are inclined as a DM to allow some method for detecting concentration, but as concentration doesn't require an action, it would seem reasonable to make it a hard to detect unless a concentration save is necessary. And I think we agree with that, especially like in combat, when you hit that bullet time combat of D&D, there's only X amount of people that it could be. Unless you're fighting in a busy tavern and you only know about, but if you're in a dungeon and you're facing, X amount of creatures, it can only be one of those X amount of creatures, so it'd be a little easier.
Yeah, which is why I say Arcana. If you have arcane training, if you are proficient in the Arcana skill, I think you know the signs to look for to see who's maintaining concentration. It's the scene out of Harry Potter, right? Where they hexed Harry's broom. I think that's second one. Yeah, it's the one with Gilderoy Lockhart. Right? No, I'm sorry. It's the first one. It's Quirrell. Quirrell is hexing the broom, and Snape is counter hexing, and they're both concentrating, but the kids only spot one person concentrating because they knew what to look for. And Snape, with his counter charm, is moving his lips in the counter charm, which makes him more obvious as the one doing spell work. So, yeah, but I think that's my visual for it. You look over and you see who's not breaking eye contact with that area of the fight, who is, that's
All right.
yeah.
It's time to take our break. We're actually past time, but we're going to go ahead and take 10 minutes, get our beverages of choice, our snickety snacks. Make sure you hang out. We'll be back to talk more
You
about
actually talk about
whatever.
the thing that's the title of the episode.
What?
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe.
You never know with this show. So, but we'll be back. of choice in our Snickety Snacks. Today we're talking about a little bit of everything. We're supposed to be talking about weapon tags, but we haven't got there yet.
Been a tangenty kind of morning.
It has.
You had a burp your butt anyway, so trying to argue that. You got excited. I saw the little light in your eyes when I logged in. So weapon tags are, I assume, weapon properties and the things that go with them.
Yes. So the tags or properties of weapons, there's a list. They are in the equipment section of the player's handbook.
Mm-hmm.
Ammunition, finesse, heavy, light, loading, range, reach, special, thrown, two-handed, versatile. And then you have the improvised weapon. Different. But they're making some changes to how some of these tags work in the rules glossaries that we're seeing in the UA, which brought up some interesting questions when we were going over the UA. So I thought it might be a good idea if we went and did sort of a refresher on what each of these tags currently means and how they work and how they interact with each other in the game. Because it affects two-weapon fighting, it affects the feat dual wielding, and stuff like that, among other things. So I thought it would be a good idea just to sort of look at these and see some of the and some of them, like, some of them I don't agree with, not the tag itself, but like what weapons they apply them to and what weapons they don't are weird to me in some cases. Maybe that's because I've actually played with versions of some of these weapons in combat scenarios, and like the question that brought all of this up, I've now just remembered. It was it had to do with halflings and mass weapon. And small sized creatures being unable to use mass weapons, no matter what their strength score was.
Mm-hmm.
They are excluded from the mass tag because of their height. And I'm like, I don't think that works. I don't buy that. It's an argument about strength versus leverage, and I'm sorry, if you have a weapon that is proportioned for a halfling, but has the mass that same weapon would have if it were proportioned for a human, and a halfling with a 20 strength, which is the same as a human with a 20 strength, swings it, it's going to do the same amount of damage because it weighs the same. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I think
that's one place that you and I agree on. I think my opinion on this is that you live in a world with a variety of races that come in various shapes and sizes. Everything from halflings that can be, 2 to 3 foot tall to Loxodon that can be 7 foot tall. If my primary source of income is making weapons, I'm not going to exclude a race or a size. I'll make the two-handed greatsword scaled to their height and their size, so it'll still be a two-handed greatsword.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So this is one of those really murky areas, right? So
it's murky as fuck.
Looking at the tags. All right. So first off, we have to take into account that no matter what your size is in D&D, if you are below large, which most playable races are below large, you occupy a 5 foot by 5 foot square, and you can attack anyone in an adjacent square to you. So you can reach 5 feet beyond the square you occupy, basically, but no further. Unless you have a reach weapon, which can then reach further. But that means that we're going to see that and the reach weapons. I'm going to double check this real quick. Reach adds 5 feet to your reach. Has no other. A reach weapon in the hands of a halfling would have to be long enough. It would have to be the same length as a reach weapon in the hands of a human.
Mm-hmm.
I would accept disadvantage on a reach weapon for a small creature better than I would accept heavy giving disadvantage to a small creature. Because your strength score is your strength score, and there's not a halfling strength. A halfling 20 and a human 20 are not two different strengths. They're the same. They can both lift the same fucking amount. But the human's arms are way longer, and so they need less length to reach that 5 foot extra to hit a 10-foot target.
And I think this is where the problem lies. It's a case of proportionality. Earlier editions, they had separate damage stats for the size of the weapon.
Yes.
And if you had a small or tiny creature pickup, they had a small version of the weapon that creature could wield normally without having issues of taking special feats. And they had the regular, and they had a large version for giants and everything and so forth. In 5th ed here, they've gone one weapon stat. That's it. And they went to heavy. But in our minds, we picture a halfling wielding a two-handed greatsword as having a cut-down greatsword that's only 3 foot tall, or proportional for him, a 3 or 4 foot blade. That's a long sword for an average human. But in reality, reading the way that's set, that halfling is wielding a 6 foot sword. That's almost double his body height. That's why he's getting the same amount of damage, because he has strength to do it. It just looks weird as hell when he does it.
You have Halfling Cloud from Final Fantasy, yeah.
Yes, that's pretty much what they're doing. Is what the way this rules mechanic actually reads and plays out.
Rule of Cool, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But none of the other weapon properties, none of the other tags, have any caveats about size, except heavy. But because, I would accept if you have a strength less than X, you get disadvantage. Totally would be on board with that for a heavy tag. Giving a strength prerequisite in order to use something that has the heavy tag. But basing it on their height as a creature seems like bullshit to me. Especially if you have proficiency with that type of weapon. Because you know what? No matter how awkward a weapon is for you to use, if you train with it and learn how to use it correctly, you will learn to accommodate that you can't use it the same way other people do. You will find different ways to use it and be just as effective. We have all seen this in real life in SCA combat.
Mm-hmm.
Someone adapting to a weapon style that really wasn't meant for them.
I just had the image.
Drawbacks to using.
I just had the image of a pixie barbarian wielding a giant two-handed sword. Now that'd be a hell of an AC bonus.
A pixie with a pike that can reach 10 feet.
Uh-huh.
And there's no caveat in the rules that say that doesn't work.
Nope.
That a pixie can't pick up scroll up and find something with a heavy. Pikes actually have heavy as well.
But spears have reach. Halberds have reach.
There you go. Halberd is also a heavy weapon.
Spear isn't.
Your heavy weapons are your great axe, your great sword, your halberd, your maul, your pike.
Oh, there it is.
That's all of them. So,
oh god.
Yeah, where is
Pixie with a whip with reach and
there you
finesse? Ooh, that's an interesting weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Lance and whip are the only reach weapons without the heavy tag, according to David.
Yeah, I think he's correct.
Yep.
Which
Yeah,
I
Spear
find
does
funny
not
that,
have
that Lance
reach.
is one of them. Because Lance is actually pretty heavy.
Lance also has special properties.
You get the disadvantage for fighting close with it. But yeah, I don't know. It's how do you fix that? That especially when you give them, they're adding more and more races of various sizes to the system. How do you adapt your weapons out, your damage output?
I mean, I'm fine. So them changing it to just one weapon stat for everybody is fine because it streamlines the game, takes a lot of the complications out. But now they have gone into a lot of the races, and you can choose to be medium or small as part of your race. You get to make the choice. And I guess small gets some bonuses, so they had to stick some disadvantages somewhere, and that disadvantage came out as being the heavy tag. I don't think it should have been the heavy. I think it should have been the reach, because it affects almost all the same weapons. Because there's a whole list of glaive, great axe, great sword, halberd, and pike are all reach weapons as well as heavy weapons.
And the heavy tag, that's all it does, gives disadvantage for small and tiny creatures using it. So to me, the heavy tag is almost a irrelevant, worthless tag. And you're right. I think they should apply that to reach, because there is a physical difference in how far you could stab somebody in distance away from you when you're a small person versus a long person. I just got off the rapier list last night where long-armed bastards with 48-inch blades were stabbing me a lot.
Right. So I guess if that's all heavy does, see, I would change heavy to give you a strength score prerequisite, and the only way I see size coming into it is if you are above a medium-sized creature, you could wield this two-handed, and you meet the strength prerequisite, you can wield it one-handed instead of two-handed. It becomes versatile, is what I would say. That's how I would change heavy. Heavy weapons must be wielded two-handed unless you are of large size.
Well, then, again, the heavy tag is a frivolous tag. If you're saying that,
you could
just get rid of it.
You could get rid of it. No, I think I would just put the strength prerequisite. Just put a strength prerequisite in it. And that's what you should make it. If you do not have above a 14 strength, you cannot wield this weapon. It's heavy.
So
I agree with you.
I can go with that.
And I would put the disadvantage on reach weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for small. So all right. So anyway, let's go through the rest of these. Now that we've kind of talked those two aspects to death. Ammunition is a fun one. You can use a weapon that has the ammunition property to make ranged attack only if you have the ammunition to fire for the weapon. Each time you attack with the weapon, you expend one piece of ammunition. Drawing the ammunition. This is where we've had this argument a lot, which is why I'm very familiar with this particular tag. Drawing the ammunition from a quiver, case, or other container is part of your attack. You need a free hand to load a one-handed weapon. At the end of the battle, you can recover half your expended ammunition by taking a minute to search the battlefield. If you use a weapon that has the ammunition property to make a melee attack, you treat the weapon as an improvised weapon. See improvised weapon lost loaded. Deal any damage when it is used. So we got into a big discussion about drawing arrows from quivers and loading and all of that. At one point, we spent a good deal of a tangent on this show discussing the ammunition tag and how that worked with some other very specific effects. And that is where we learned that drawing ammo from the thing is part of the attack action, which is lovely. Finesse, when making an attack with a finesse weapon, you get to choose between strength and dex for the modifier for attack and damage rolls. You must use the same modifier for both rolls. Finesse is awesome. It is how you build a non-strength-based fighter of any sort.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan.
I want to jump back to ammunition because I'm going to kick this hornet's nest again.
Okay. I tried to move away before I started an argument.
I can agree with the ammunition rule for a bow. That's a quick load. There you go. For crossbows, anything bigger than a hand crossbow, no.
All right, you're wrong. There, I ended the argument. How about that? I'll tell you why you're wrong, because we're going to get to that.
Uh-oh.
Because there's a property called loading.
Oh, yeah. Fair point.
Which is for weapons that have the loading, means that they take longer to load. It is not a quick load. So that is why that exists.
All right, we're getting to it. Never mind.
So you get ammunition means that you draw the piece of ammo as part of the attack action. But if the weapon takes significantly more time or has crossbow takes 2 hands to load, you need it gets the loading property as well. Jared, do you have anything on ammunition or finesse before we move on?
I believe the ammunition is situational. If you are in the middle of combat and you're like, I'm firing my bow, then yes, pulling the arrow and firing is all part of the attack action. If you're in a hallway and you're like, I'm going to pull and notch an arrow, that is object interaction. That is completely different. I believe, honestly, it's situational.
How do you mean in a hallway as opposed to in a battle?
Like if you're creeping down the hallway and you're like, I'm going to, there might be a big bad. I'm going to pull an arrow and notch it.
Okay.
As we go creeping down the hallway, that's an object interaction.
Yeah, that is a preparation. That is not part of an attack action. Yes, I agree that I'm going to mute myself because there's an ambulance.
But what's the difference at that point, though? In some ways, at a purely, for a cinematic descriptive, that adds to the flavor of what's going on.
Because you are not making an attack, and drawing the ammo is part of your attack action. But at that point, you're not using an attack action, so you are readying an attack. Basically, you are using your object interaction to preload for cinematic effect. Basically, I don't think
I'm just okay. Cool.
It has no real impact except for flavor.
Okay, yeah. I'm just make sure I wasn't missing something else because in the end, okay, it's part of your attack. It doesn't matter if you loaded it 5 rounds ago or as you stepped around the corner.
It's just flavor.
Yeah. Okay, moving on then. We have just beat heavy to death. So light, the opposite of heavy. Small and easy to handle. Ideal for use when fighting with 2 weapons. See rules for 2-weapon fighting. You must have a light weapon in each hand in order to fight with the 2-weapon fighting. Unless you take dual wielder, and then that lets you upgrade one of your weapons to a not light weapon in order to fight, and gives you an extra object interaction so you can draw more than one at a time, that sort of thing. That's the light tag does. 3, 2. All right, and loading. Now we're to the one Raph brought up earlier. Because of the time required to load this weapon, you can fire only one piece of ammunition from it when you use it as an action, bonus action, or reaction. to fire it regardless of the number of attacks you can normally make. So your entire action is spent drawing, loading, firing. Done.
There is a way around that.
That is going to take your full 6 seconds. Yeah, there's a couple. I think.
If you take the feat crossbow mastery,
Mhm.
you ignore reloading.
Yep.
Oof.
Yeah, and that's why that feat is on our short list of feats you don't get to take with other with other Uber feats. Because taking it and another thing, and like taking sharpshooter and crossbow expert makes you an arrow god, and you break the game a little bit. So
Sentinel. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's sneeze. Sorry.
yeah, no, I mean because Sentinel doesn't say anywhere in it that you have to use a melee weapon. It says you have to make a melee attack, and a ranged melee attack is still a melee attack.
Yep.
So, like,
One hit.
now granted, if they're passing within 5 feet of you and you're getting that attack of opportunity from Sentinel, you're probably going to be at disadvantage to make that ranged weapon attack, but you can do it.
One of the feats eliminates that.
Right. There is a feat that eliminates. I don't remember which one it is in this.
I can't remember if it's crossbow mastery or the sharpshooter, but one of them eliminates it.
Sharpshooter. But yeah, and it's, I don't know. My 3.5 brain still remembers it as point blank shot.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call it here. And then that brings us to the range tag.
That's what it was.
I don't know. We just talked about range tag. Yeah, you make a attack with a ranged weapon. It'll either generally have ammunition or thrown as a property. The range lists 2 numbers. The first is the weapon's normal range in feet. The second indicates the weapon's long range. When attacking a target beyond normal range, you have disadvantage on the attack roll. And you can't attack a target beyond the weapon's long range. So, like, for example of that, the longbow is a range of 150 feet to 600 feet. So if they are 155 feet away from you, and you don't bother to take a 5-foot step before you fire with disadvantage. Yeah, and look at this. The longbow has a heavy tag on it, so it's disadvantage to small people.
No.
Yeah, right? Like, no, that is... Especially in a fantasy world where a bow can be made out of materials other than just plain wood.
Exactly.
You know, like, if it takes strength... You measure the strength of a bow in pounds per inch of draw. So the weight of a bow, the draw weight of a bow, like my longbow is 65 pounds at 28 inches. So a 28-inch draw brings it back to 65 pounds of force that I'm holding back, and then releasing with. So now I can understand, like, there's a lot of, like, the length of the bow affecting the draw weight of the bow. But this is a fantasy world where it could be made out of something other than regular wood. And so you could have a shorter bow, a bow sized for a halfling, that has the same draw weight as a long bow, as a 6-foot tall bow designed for a human. So yeah, I think once again the heavy tag is failing there. Next up is reach. This weapon adds 5 feet to your reach when you attack with it. as well as when determining your reach for opportunity attacks. And that's always fun. When the DM forgets that you can attack 10 feet away and tries to run a guy past you.
What?
And you
Okay,
go,
so-
wait, no, but I have Sentinel and a glaive.
So it adds 5 feet. So if you're a bugbear, you can hit on 15 feet.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Because bugbears get an additional 5-foot reach because they have long arms as a trait.
Wow.
Special. A weapon with a special property has unusual rules governing its use, explained in the weapon's description, so you have to look those up individually. I can't help you with them. Thrown is much the same as ranged. If it's a melee weapon, though, you can make attacks with it as a melee weapon, or you can choose to throw it, and it uses the same modifier for attack and damage rolls that you would if you attacked with it with a melee weapon. For example, if you throw a hand axe, you use your strength, but if you throw a dagger, you can use either your strength or your dex because the dagger has a finesse property.
Ooh. So spear has versatile.
Yes, and we'll get to that in just a second. Next up is two-handed. This weapon requires two hands when you attack with it. Property is relevant only when you attack with the weapon, not when you simply hold it. Once again, I feel like if you want to put rules in about sizes of creatures into weapon tags, two-handed needs a caveat. It needs if you are above medium, then this two-handed weapon might not need to be wielded in two-handed for you because you are big. You know, as we said, that a long sword to a human might be a great sword to a halfling. A great sword to a human might be a long sword to a troll.
Mm-hmm. Something a large size or bigger. Yeah, and
whatever. Yeah,
and I think that's where the older dishes probably had that better with their split damages based on the size of the weapon.
They did, but it did make things overly complicated. And I can't tell you how many times at a table I was running, I had somebody who was kind of new looking at the wrong line, and looking, doing less damage than they should have or more damage than they should have because they were looking at the wrong number. Because all of the numbers were there in the same stat block. So paring it down and just making it one simple, this is how much damage this weapon does make it a lot easier. But yeah, it brings up complicated questions like that.
But now we got D&D Beyond that handles that.
Yeah.
To me, what it's changing the flavor of is that in 3.5, it was the weapon that was controlling the damage. And now in 5e, it's the user. It's based more on the user skill does damage because you add your modifiers and stuff, just flavor wise, And I like that it makes it feel like it's more based on the user than the weapon.
Siri has a great point. Have you ever seen someone shoot a Yumi bow? That's the Japanese bow that is non-symmetrical. It has a longer top arm than it does a bottom arm. Like that's basically so that a human firing a Yumi bow is the equivalent of a halfling firing a longbow. And the last tag we have is versatile. This weapon can be used in one or two hands. The damage value in parentheses is, with the property. The damage is the damage when the weapon is used with two hands to make a melee attack.
Yeah, that's odd. They make the distinction there at the versatile tag, but they don't carry it out elsewhere. We did miss a few other tags.
Did we?
Simple, martial, and improvised.
Well, those are okay. Tags, categories, sure.
Yeah.
But those are just really the determiners of most things from that fall under proficiency, whether or not you can use it at all.
Mm-hmm. Or use it at a disadvantage.
Right. That those tags imply training to my mind. Like those.
Okay.
Have you
one-
trained with this group of weapons? Are you trained with a martial weapon? Are you trained with a simple weapon? Have you trained to use improvised weapons?
Yeah, this is where I kind of get twitchy because, okay, cool. You got the martial weapon, access to martial weapons, martial feat. I'm as good with a longsword as I am with a Morning Star. Two very different weapons.
They are very different.
And very different mechanics of how they work. Heck, just your pole arms versus your regular blades. But we go down that diatribe along. The thing I was going to point out, though, is D&D in the new D&D Beyond, short swords specifically jump from simple to martial. Or not, correction, jump from martial to simple.
You mean in one D&D?
In one D&D, yep.
Yeah.
So
That's
go ahead, Chair.
so we're getting close to running out of time.
mhm.
And I wanted to ask this question at the beginning, and I was too medicated to ask. We've seen some stuff from one D&D so far. What is the one thing that we haven't seen that you want to see?
Ooh.
I'll tell you mine. I want them to get rid of alignment. I want alignment gone.
I 1000% agree with that. There is no useful reason to have it anymore.
Absolutely agree with that one. Alignment can just kind of go wander off somewhere else. I've dropped it out of my games entirely. It doesn't apply anymore. That's a big one. You
Go
first.
ahead.
I got nothing.
Okay. I mean, I feel like I'm going to continue to kick this dead horse, but clarify the fucking jump rules, goddammit. Or at least clarify the jump spell to give it specifics to break the normal movement rules, because otherwise it's fucking useless.
I don't know. I guess I want to see them come out with the rest of it. I want to see what's in there first before I can say, well, they missed something.
I mean, they put jump in already, but the jump rules have changed, but doesn't really affect how the jump spell works.
Mm.
So it's still kind of bullshit.
Yeah, well, they have time to fix it yet.
They do. No, I'm just, that's what I want to see.
Every day.
I 1000% agree with Tier that the alignment system is fucking dead. And I don't think they'll ever let it go completely, but it's no longer relevant to the game.
Mm-hmm. I was reminded by my friend of mine in Sketched that we both think that Thaco should come back.
Fuck you. And the horse you rode in on. And your mom. And
if they bring Thaco back, I quit.
Yeah.
I have a hard enough time doing math as it is.
Look, Thaco was an attempt. I will say, I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it again. Thaco was an attempt to copyright math, and you cannot do that. Work and fuck them for trying. We're gonna make this backwards ass equation so we can say it's ours and other people can't copy it. No one wanted to copy that bullshit. Nobody else wanted to use it. Roll plus stat equals 2 hit. That's all you need. Base armor plus dex. That's how you get armor class. None of this backwards ass 2 hit armor class 0. I have a -10 armor class, therefore I'm the coolest in the game. Fuck all of it.
Yeah, No, at this point, for what I want to see I want to see them come up with more. I want to see what they put into it, to see what they missed. And in some ways,
yeah,
it's too early to tell what isn't getting fixed.
Yeah, I want to see more classes. I want to see. I want to see all the classes. Oh, there you go. There's the one I want. I got it. I want Blood Hunter to be a real class.
That would be nice.
I want them to add it officially. It is all but at this point. It is supported on on D&D Beyond. It's you don't even have to homebrew it. You can just get it as content. All you do is turn on the Critical Role stuff. Like, just fucking make it a class already. Ooh. Everyone already treats it that way, and Jeremy Crawford, in every interview I've seen about 1D&D, has said that they are trying to make the game rules closer to the way people actually play. Well, Jeremy, people play fucking Blood Hunters like it's a regular class. So fucking fix the rules to reflect that. Get off my soapbox now.
All right. You were speaking there. One thing to do. I want them to bring back the economy.
Yes. The economy needs fixed.
Mm-hmm. Bring back a gold piece value for things. Make it make sense, because oh cool, I got a bag of gold. What do I do with it? You make the treasure. Why do you go into these dungeons? Well, why do you pick up the gold off these? Okay, I got a lot of gold. What do I do with it? You can do some kind of cool things, maybe, sort of. Bring back some of that, a little more concrete.
I use it to buy diamonds so I can resurrect my party when they die. Mm-hmm. That's what I do with gold.
Yep. So, all right, that's about all I got.
Guys. It's our time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and remind people who we are, where they can find us, and let's get the hell out of here.
All right, gamers, I've been Raph the Mad, one of your co-hosts for this this train wreck of an episode. You can find me at BOKDragon13000 on Twitter.
Hi, gamers. I'm still Locke Clark, and you can find me at the Book of Faces and the Twitter Patience at Locke Unruly. That's Locke with an H.
And I'm Tyr the DM, the world's okayest DM. Have the t-shirt to prove it. And if you want to see that shirt, tune in tomorrow night at 9 p.m. when we do Sins of Blood, our actual play, or Sunday at 8 p.m. when we do Bloodlines, another actual play. 2 campaigns running congruently of each other. They do impact each other. They have spillover. And people have already died and been brought back. And you can find me on Twitter at Tyr_the_DM. Remember that though times get tough and challenging, that you're not alone. Remember that love and inclusion, these are the torches that lead to a better tomorrow. Come join us and be torchbearers. And until next time, if someone doesn't know, don't cast aspersions. Cast guidance. Love you guys.